Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Sandeman Street podcast, a podcast about Dundee and Dundee United from fans of both clubs. Joining me today as usual is my regular co-host Jack. Jack, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, obviously there was no football at the weekend, so struggled through it a bit, but I suppose that's the price you've got to take when you can't beat Airdrie and Alloa. But we'll get right into it, and I think what we'll probably do is we'll start with the last midweek. United, unfortunately, exiting Europe to a penalty shootout. Now, you were there. I seen the majority of the game on TV. I never seen the first half, but from then on, I was able to watch the rest of the match. What's your initial thoughts?
I thought we played well, mate. I thought we were the better team. Uh, we obviously went 2-0 up in the first half, and I thought we fully deserved it, to be honest with you. I think they had a couple of chances, but they didn't really create much in the first half. And then, second half, we've obviously, I think Judwin's told them to sit back and try and absorb the pressure a bit, and they punished us for it. I think if we'd went out and he'd said to play the game we played in the first half, and then if we'd maybe conceded, then sit back, I think we might have gone through, but he's obviously not, and we've been punished for it twice. Poor defending at the back, both crosses again, which is becoming quite a theme through the season so far, conceding crosses. But yeah, I thought we were fair game for it. Obviously, it gets to penalties, and penalties are penalties. It's 50-50 really. So we're obviously unfortunate to lose, because I thought we were, like I say, I thought we were pretty good. Yeah, obviously Fata missed his penalty, which is unfortunate. He had the confidence to step up and take it. He's quite a young player, so he's obviously got some balls to step up and take the first penalty, and he's obviously missed it. But I thought when he came on, he played well. Sapsir got injured, and that's maybe not helped us. But I thought Fata played well when he came on.
Sorry to interrupt you, but is the
No,
boy Sapsford, is that looking mid to long term, or what are they thinking for that?
I don't know. I think it might have been a knock to his ankle or something. I don't know if it's short term or what. He missed the Kelly game at the weekend as well, so they probably rested him as a precaution. I think he took a bad one for the penalty, so he's came off at half time, and we'll just have to see what happens. That's another injury to add to the list we've got so far.
Yeah, it's an ever-growing list, isn't it? And then obviously we'll move on to speaking about the weekend in a wee while, but another striker got injured. Yeah, we're recording Monday. Another striker got injured yesterday. So Jim Goodwin's obviously not having much luck at the moment when it comes to keeping players fit, especially at a time of the season where it's game after game after game. Exiting Europe now will at least help with that aspect. But yeah, it's not great. It happens to us all at some point, but there's nothing really you can do about it, I suppose. But you mentioned there about the boy Fata. I mean, out of 10 penalties, he's the only one who's missed, and there was some great quality of penalties on show.
Yeah, there was. I think Kucherenko received a bit of stick for diving the same way every time. It's penalties. It's a game of psychology, and when you've dived the same way twice, then you're thinking, okay, well maybe they're going to go this way this time. So he dives that way, and then they obviously put it in the bottom right hand corner. So he's like, okay, well that's three on the right hand side, three on the left hand, my left. So I'll dive right again, thinking, oh, they'll now switch it. And it's just a game of psychology at that point. He's obviously dived the wrong way 5 times. I think he did receive a wee bit of stick for it, but he's a good keeper as well. And like I say, it's penalties, so there's not really much you can do about it.
It's a bit of fucking harsh criticism, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
As much as you're saying it's a game of psychology, there's also a lot of homework goes into it. And if he's been told by the goalkeeping coach, number 7 goes this way, number 14 goes this way, number 3 goes this way, and he's diving that way, if the boy puts it in the other corner, there's not really much else you can do about it. There's homework about it, there's psychology in it, and there's guesswork in it. I'd love to see the people who are criticising the lad for diving one way for a penalty go and try it himself.
Yeah. Yeah, it is quite unjust.
Incredibly harsh.
Yeah, it is. I would say I was a few people online I'd seen, like, not many, but I did see a couple of people online saying that, what's the keeper doing diving the same way every time? So it is harsh, but it's happened, so.
And I think, obviously, as I said earlier, I never managed to watch the first half. The United were obviously at their best within the match within the first half. The majority of what I seen was more penned in, and as much as you said that you think that maybe Goodwin said to them, look, let's soak up some pressure and see how we get on, there's also a lot to do with psychology as well in that aspect, not just with the penalties, but that where they've got something to protect, so just like let's protect it. I have to say, Rapid Vienna, from the first leg and what I've seen of the second leg, if they're spending 3 times, 4 times what United are spending on their squad, they're certainly not getting value for money out of it within that, well, 2 games in an extra time period, because United were a match for them every step of the way. There was never a time where you thought this team are superior to United.
Yeah, I mean, you could see they had quality players. You've seen that they were a threat, but I think United matched them pretty much everywhere on the pitch. Given the results showed, like, that's obviously the case. But you're right, I don't think they have got the quality that they've probably thought they'd have with the money they're spending. If they're spending 3 or 4 times the amount of money that United are spending on players. Like, they just signed a boy for £2.5 million. United aren't spending anywhere near that money. They're paying probably 10 times less than that. So I don't think the quality, the difference was that vast to what I think most people were expecting.
No, and as I say to you, like, and it was either the last episode of them. I think it was the last episode, and I was saying that I've got a mate who both know who was over in Vienna, and shout out to you, Ross, and we were both speaking about, like, United going over there, and the way that Ross was going on about it was like United were up away to face against Real Madrid, and I get it, like, before it you were going into the unknown, like, they were expected to be a better team than United, but the way that some people were making it out was just incredible, in my opinion. Like, Rapid Vienna, they're a half decent team, but they were nowhere near as what they were getting made out. But they really, really kind of disappointed me in a way. Not disappointed me in the sense that I want them to go out and horse United, which is obviously what I want to happen. But I'm not disappointed in that way. What I'm saying is they disappointed me in the way that you think that they're going to be a decent team, and they didn't look like they were a decent team. They looked like they were, like, maybe just off Rangers and Celtic level.
Yeah.
And they're probably spending more than them, and transfer fees, and in general, like, money. Maybe not as much as Celtic, but certainly Rangers.
Yeah, they're obviously going to have a bigger budget. They've got a bigger fan base. They've probably got a fan base similar to that of Rangers and Celtic, so they are going to have a bigger budget, and they're probably going to be able to sign similar players. They'll be in the same markets, so they probably will be around their level.
If they were to play Celtic, I think Celtic would annihilate them. And that is a Celtic at the moment who their fans are up in arms because they're not spending any dough on players. They've kind of stood still since the summer last year, and they've started off the season with 2 wins, but they've not been amazing in them 2 wins. Obviously, they played a bit better against Falkirk at the weekend, but Celtic would annihilate them, in my opinion.
I mean, you've got to think about. They're looking at Dundee United as a small team, so they're probably not going to turn up and be 100% up for it. If you were to play Celtic or Rangers, they're going to be more up for it. I think annihilate's a bit far, but I think Celtic would obviously give them it would be a very good game. I think Rapid Vienna would probably step up a bit more and be a bit more up for it. But yeah, I don't think they're far off each other, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, suppose we'd need to actually see that match to see if that would actually be the case. But first half especially, Jack, obviously I didn't see it, but I've heard all sorts of United were a bit irresistible, weren't they?
They were a bit what, sorry?
Irresistible. They were
Yeah,
very good.
yeah, they were good. I missed the first goal. I had to go for a wee toilet break, and I missed the goal. Um,
Schoolboy error.
I know, mate. I know. I was waiting till I didn't want to go straight away because the toilets are busy. So I went. I was pretty safe. United had the ball. I was like, I'll be alright. Got to the toilet and I just hear a loud roar. So that was unfortunate. But yeah, I thought we played really well. I thought I had some good chances. I didn't think Rapid threatened much in the first half at all. So yeah, I thought United played really well in the first half. They were right up for it.
Yeah, and it was the same boy scored both goals, isn't it? Obviously, the first one was a header, and the second one was a penalty. What's the name of the boy? He got injured at the weekend, and I can't remember the boy's name.
Waters.
Waters. He was the one that scored. Where's he from?
Barnsley, I want to say.
Barnsley.
Yeah, he's on loan from Barnsley.
It's amazing. You get a boy on loan for Barnsley who I think are in League One, and he's going and scoring goals in Europe because he scored in the first leg as well.
He scored. Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right.
It's just a boy can't get a game for Barnsley. But
Yeah.
here we go. Yeah, so obviously from what I've seen, you touched on it earlier on. They scored 2 goals from crosses into the box. Now that's the second time, maybe the third. The third time I seen them the 2 games against Rapid Vienna. I seen a wee bit of the Falkirk game. I just think that goalie of yours is just going to cause you no end of problems. He's a maverick, is he? Like, he'll produce good saves, but he just does not look convincing. And I think every single team in Scotland is going to put that ball right on his head for the entirety of this season because he just doesn't look like the consistency in him. He loves punching it. Martin mentioned that loads and loads of episodes ago. He loves to punch the ball. And there might be United fans, and even yourself, that they might be sitting here listening to me saying this and slaughtering me. But I just think that he's going to cost you no end of goals this season.
I think he's probably going to cost us a couple of goals, but I think that's quite harsh. I don't think he's been at fault for any of the goals. I don't think he's been at fault for any of the goals we've conceded so far. He's a pretty good shot stopper. I think we're not winning headers in the box. We're not being combative in the box, and so the players are getting free flick-ons, free headers, and at short range, the keeper's not really going to have a chance to stop them. He is a maverick. He is going to run and try and punch the ball. But I've also seen him catch a few balls, and he wants to hit on the counter-attack. He wants to get rid of the ball fast and throw it out and try and hit teams on the counter. It kind of reminds me of Chersniak back in the day, who'd catch the ball and just throw it. I think he's the same type of goalkeeper. So I think it is hard saying that he's going to concede loads of goals and cause a lot of problems because he's dealt with most of the crosses that's come near him. It's just that the crosses that haven't came near him, the defenders aren't winning them, and then they're just falling to opposition strikers and they're getting punished for it.
I think maybe emphasise more on that. I think the mistakes will come out with crossing it in the box. Like what I mean by crossing it in the box is the players, the opposition team will obviously do their homework. They'll scrutinise what the boy's like. He doesn't want to come out and collect the ball very often. He wants to come and punch. And what they're going to do is they're going to surround the 6-yard box with their players and put the ball in on them. And I'm not saying that that's going to cause him to make mistakes as such, but he might come out and not get the cleanest of punches on the ball, and then that might then lead to a goal. I think where the mistakes are going to come from him is like what you've seen at the end of the first leg, where the goal gets disallowed for offside near the end of the game. Them sort of errors, because he just looks like he's here, there and everywhere. He's just a daft goalie. That's probably the best way to describe him. He's just a buzz bomb, big daft goalie. And it looks, I think the best way to describe what I'm saying to you here is that it looks like he's thinking of what he's going to do next before he's done what he needs to do now. So
Mm.
that save that he flogged, and then obviously it got ruled out for offside in the first leg of the Vienna game. It's like he's thinking, what am I going to do once I get up with this ball? And he's not even parried it or caught it yet. So, yeah, I think in that aspect he'll cost you in terms of his personal mistakes. I'm not fully convinced by him. You disagree with me, and that's well within your right. I just think that when it comes to set pieces, you see it all the time. Dundee done it all the time with Tony Dockery. The players will pack the 6-yard box. And I mean, Dundee scored a goal in a derby like that last year in the Scottish Cup. Everybody went in the 6-yard box. Simon Murray peeled off and flicked the ball into the far post. I just think that when you've got a keeper who prefers to punch and he's a bit erratic and he's a bit just a daft goalie, like I keep saying, teams will work on how to target that. And one of the things they can do is when on set pieces they can just get everybody in his area and make sure that he can't come for it. And if he can't come for it, or he's going to come for it to try and punch it, and your defenders are also not winning headers, that's not a great sign. Now, I want to caveat that by saying it's very early days in the season. United, I think, will improve. They've got a lot of boys from a lot of different places playing for them at the moment, and they've played away alright so far. The results have been up and down, performances have been up and down, but I think once you'll see the best of United as the season progresses, because the boys will have gelled. Players from different nationalities will begin to understand, will begin to be able to communicate better on the pitch. They'll have gelled as a team behind closed doors. So I certainly think that although United have been good in maybe spells of games so far, and I mean, they were over the course of 120 minutes against Vienna last week, they were probably the better team. The best of United is yet to come, in my opinion, and that's quite hard to say from my point of view.
Yeah, I mean, it was still the start of the season. And while I've got a lot of boys injured, who I think, if they were all fit, would have been maybe further ahead than we are now. Probably that's pretty obvious. And they're obviously going to take time to get up to speed and whatnot. But I think if United had their whole team fit, we would, I think, play pretty good football. We would be maybe grinding out results. I think Graham being injured, I think that makes us really weak defensively, if I'm being honest. I think one of the boys we've signed that's been playing, I don't know if it's Caceres or if that's his name, I don't know, or Juvu. I feel like one of them probably wouldn't be in it, like be starting if Graham was fit, because he is the captain. And I think we've brought one of them in to maybe play cover, but they've been thrown in straight away, so they're probably not up to the standard yet that's required of them. Probably more so Juvu than anyone, because he's been at fault for quite a few of the goals so far. But I think that there is progress still to come. I think it is early in the season, and you're right, players are coming from different leagues and different styles of football, and it will take time for them to adapt. So I think we can be in for a good season. It's just the results haven't been there yet. The defensive performances haven't been there yet. I think we've looked pretty good attacking, but the whole package throughout the whole 90 minutes hasn't been good enough so far.
No, and as I say, that's to be expected when it comes to where we are in terms of the season. United didn't have any Betfred, Premier Sport, whatever thing it is, cup games in the summer, where a lot of the SPL team managers who are competing in that use that as pre-season effectively. United have had pre-season friendlies right up until their first European game, so there's still, 2 league games, 4 European games and a cup game, and we're in the middle of August, beginning to get towards the end of August, so there's certainly a lot to come from United, I think, and they'll probably see the best of them maybe from like October, November onwards, I reckon. Once we get through the bulk of the international breaks, I think that's when you'll probably see the best of them. But what we'll do is we'll move on now to obviously with Dundee not having a game at the weekend, this is going to be quite a United-dominated podcast. We'll move on to the second of their cup exits this week. They played Kilmarnock yesterday at Rugby Park and it was a 2-1 defeat. Now, I don't know how much of it you've seen. Did you see any of it at all?
I watched the highlights, that was it.
I've seen the highlights as well, and there's a couple of really poor goals they lost.
Yeah. Defensively, I thought it was really poor. I think the first goal, ball right over the top, nowhere near the striker, and he's just slotted it past. I thought that was really poor goal to concede. I thought, obviously, we lost. Waters got injured, so that's another injury we've got. I think they're saying it could be a hamstring injury again, so that's 4 hamstring injuries we've got. He got injured, Sterling came on, he took his goal, I thought, really well, actually. Nice touch away from the defender and sliced it past the goalie. And then the second goal, I think it was a cross into the box. It's not dealt with, lands at the player's feet, and he just strikes it in the back of the net. I think the performance was lacklustre from the highlights. I didn't see many chances that we created. I think it only showed one other highlight outside of the goal. So we clearly didn't create enough. We clearly went up for it. Defensively poor. So I think it was just a bad day at the office overall.
Yeah, I mean, the boy, was it Sturton?
Yeah.
The boy Sturton took his goal well, a nice turn. Obviously, he scuffed the finish a wee bit, but the nice turn that he had got him into that position, and he put the ball in the net, and that's what matters. That's obviously a positive sign, a young player coming through, and he's taking his chance within the first team, so there is a positive in that aspect, but the 2 goals, as you say, are not great. It's a tough one. I think United obviously wanted to get to the league phase of the Conference League, mainly for the fans, for the trips, and to get to see teams at Tannadice they didn't get to see, and for the men upstairs for the dough that they're getting. I think it's like a guaranteed 4 million or something like that they would get just for playing in it, and that's not to do with the money you get per draw and money you get per win. And obviously it's exposure for the club. People see them in that environment, then they're more likely to maybe want to come and sign for them, etc, etc, etc. But I think for the sake of United's domestic season, and I know that this is really, really short-sighted because we should be aiming higher, it might be a blessing in disguise that United went out of Europe, because that performance yesterday is what will happen to Aberdeen for the first half of the season. They'll come back off the back of European away days or European games where they've put loads and loads of energy in, and then they're playing an away game at Kilmarnock or an away game at Livingston or whatever on the Sunday, and they'll drop points. So, as much as we should be showing ambition, and I really hate myself for having this opinion, it might be a good thing that United went out of Europe, because if United won in Europe on Thursday, they could potentially have won that game. It's all about maybes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think short term, I think in football, the focus more on the short term than the long term. I think it would have been great for United to make the group stages. Like, in terms of the long term exposure, the financial resources that come with it. And I think you should always focus on the long term if you can. But short term, it would have been detrimental to the season. I think we would have struggled very, very hard to pick up results against poorer teams. Like you say, Aberdeen's probably going to go and they're going to lose and drop points to teams they shouldn't be losing points to, because they're in Europe and they're playing against these bigger teams every other week. And so I think, it would have been bad for the club short term, because we would have dropped points, and like you say, every weekend we weren't good enough, and I think that was because of Europe. The players were knackered, we're picking up way too many injuries, and if we'd made the group stages, it probably would have got significantly worse.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we said 5-10 minutes ago that they've got 4 hamstring injuries.
Yeah.
And that's only because of fatigue. The only thing that could be is fatigue, or the training's mental. And he didn't have 4 hamstring injuries at the same time last season.
No. I think it's Graham, Trapanovsky, Ryan Strain, and now Waters.
I mean, Dundee went through very, very similar last season where they just could not keep players fit. And they had ever-growing, it was always defenders. And
Yeah.
they had a massive injury list at one point, to the point where they signed the boy Sean Kelly on like a 3-month contract because they just needed bodies. So it's certainly something that happens to everybody at some point, but it doesn't make it any easier. And it's even more frustrating when it happens on that car park of a pitch that Kilmarnock have got.
Yeah. The sooner they get rid of it, the better.
I'm so happy you said that, right? Because you know when I hear people saying that it's not an advantage, it makes my blood boil. How could it not be an advantage? Because if you're Falkirk, if you're Livingston, if you're Kilmarnock, you're playing on that surface every single day at training and on a Saturday. Now, I think we all know that from playing on AstroTurf, I mean, most of the pitches that you would have played on during the winter as a Sunday League player in Dundee are AstroTurf pitches, numerous different ones, and they're all slightly different in their own unique way. And if you're playing on them every single day, or on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, and a Friday, or on a Saturday and a Sunday, or whatever days you're training plus match day, you're picking up subconsciously when the ball drops in this way, it bounces in that direction, or it bounces this high. And if I can clip this ball in behind at this pace, the bounce won't mean that it doesn't go out the pitch for a goal kick. All these things that players pick up on, and then if it's dry, it's this way. So the manager tells the groundsman not to water it at certain areas. Like, all these things come into play. That a grass pitch is far superior. Now, I hear the argument that a bad AstroTurf pitch is better than a bad grass pitch, and I can hear you in a certain extent, but you didn't get many bad grass pitches in Scotland nowadays. I mean, last season St Johnstone's was in great nick. This season, the season before that, and for a few seasons before that as well, Dundee's wasn't in great nick. But the reason why Dundee's wasn't in great nick is because the owners completely neglected the park, and it got to the stage where they were basically forced into doing something about it. And the pitch has been in perfect condition ever since. So there's no many pitches in Scottish football now that are grass. I mean, there's 9 of them in the Premier League, because there's 3 AstroTurfs that are really like tatty fields. I just kind of suffer the pitches. They're such an advantage. I mean, years ago, and we were funny because we were texting earlier about the Footballogy Challenge, and you said, how on earth did you remember that? But years ago, when Dundee were going toe-to-toe with Hamilton Accies for the First Division League title, and it was round about the time where Hamilton had McCarthy and MacArthur, and McCarthy at the time was a right winger, or a left winger, right winger predominantly. And it was when Hamilton originally had Astro. So Hamilton had Astro, and then they had to tear it up to get grass. Then they put Astro back down. And what they used to do was, they used to water right down one side of the pitch, anticipating that he'd play on that side. And then at half time, they'd either water it again because the teams had swapped, or they'd water the other side, so that the ball was flowing better along the pitch when he was playing right side, because he was one of their best players.
All right.
So you're no telling me, and that's, you could call it cheating, gamesmanship. Maybe cheating's a wee bit strong. Gamesmanship's maybe a better thing to say about it. But that's an advantage that you didn't get when you've got grass. So, yeah, I mean, it's so off topic, it's unbelievable, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to speak about these sort of things. So, anything else you'd like to say about the game yesterday?
No, I'd rather move on, to be honest.
We'll move on. Okay, no problem. So what we'll do is we'll cover the rest of the second round League Cup games. So Saturday's results were Morton 0, Aberdeen 3. I think the boy Yengi got off the mark there. He's been taking some amount of stick for the Aberdeen supporters that I've seen online, but he managed to get his first goal for Aberdeen. Partick Thistle 2, Ayr United 0, St Johnstone 0, Motherwell 1 after extra time, and St Mirren 1, Hearts 1, with St Mirren going through 5-4 on penalties. And just to round up Saturday's a late kick-off, because obviously it's in the contract that Rangers and Celtic have to be on Premier Sports Live. Rangers won 4-2 against Alloa. Now, I'll tell you something, Russell Martin will be a lucky laddie if he survives until the end of this calendar year. I'm telling you, they are toiling. Moving on to the games on Sunday, there was the remaining 2 League Cup games, which obviously we've discussed. Kilmarnock 2, Dundee United 1, and Livingston 0, Hibs 2. I don't know if you've seen the highlights of that game, Jack, but Josh Mulligan scored an absolute cracker.
I'd heard, I haven't seen it, but I have heard he did score a good goal.
What a cracker of a goal that was. But that takes us on to the weekend's games. Now, am I right in saying, Jack, that United don't have a game this weekend?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I've not paid that much attention this week. I'll go have a look.
You're getting sacked. You are getting sacked as the United co-host of this podcast. I apologise to everybody listening.
No, it's been postponed.
Yeah, because it was meant to be playing against Aberdeen, and Aberdeen put for a cancellation because of their European game.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, good thing one of us is paying attention. Dundee are away to Kilmarnock, so United fans were keeping our seats warm. Now, we'll not discuss their pitch. We've obviously went into a bit of detail about that just there. Dundee will have Jan Danda available. I was listening to George Cran and the guys from the Tillys podcast that they do about Dundee and United, the arch nemesis. And George Cran was saying that they had 2 bounce games on Thursday. So they had a game in the morning against Dunfermline at East End that finished 0-0. And then they ended up getting on a bus and going down to Lesser Hampden to play against Queen's Park. They drew 1-1. A couple of the Mexican boys got some minutes. We've got Cammy McPherson on trial, which is a bit of a strange one in my opinion, but apparently the link there is the boy David Longwell, who's our technical manager, knows him from when he was at St Mirren, so they have him on trial, which there's going to be a bit of a storm in a teacup if he signs for us. I don't know if you know all the stuff about him.
Am I right in saying that it's to do with politics?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he not have a significant injury history as well?
I've got no idea, but it was something to do with retweeting or something about Tommy Robinson or something like that. I'm not getting myself involved in that whatsoever, especially on a podcast, but something to do with that. So if they sign him, there's going to be a bit of an uproar. I could see it coming from a mile away. There was a bit of an uproar when they announced that he was in training. So yeah, they've got him. He played a few minutes in the games. And Simon Murray was back. He played 60 minutes in one of the games, so it's good that he's back. Hopefully he'll at least make the bench this weekend. I don't know what to think of the game this weekend, to be honest with you, because they had the game against Hibs. Wasn't the greatest. Obviously, they lost the game 2-1. They then went on to get their draw at Ibrox, and there was a lot more to be encouraged about. So it's one of the ones where you feel a bit more positive, but you think to yourself, we could go into this game and we'll get a bit of egg in our face type thing. So just kind of keep the positivity there, obviously, but just remain like be steady about it type thing. Kilmarnock, I didn't think looked very great. I mean, we've seen the highlights from the game yesterday, and I've seen bits and pieces of them from other games this season, but I don't think they're great. What do you reckon?
So I can't say too much about them. I've not seen much. Obviously, I've just seen the highlights of the game against United there. So I can't. Yeah, like I say, I can't say too much about them. I think the Dakars boy that scored against us at the weekend, I think he's 6'7", so he'd be a nuisance in the box. But as far as the rest of the team goes, I can't say I know much about them.
No. I don't think they're as good as they were when Derek McInnes was there. The Voss boys like Armstrong, and I think the like Kennedy's still there, but I think he might be injured. Beside Tiffany from us, I think he's maybe injured. I'm just bringing up their starting 11 and their subbies from the other day. Their starting 11 was Stryek in goal, and then this app's got them as a 4-3-5-2. They've got Schulte Brown, Ethan Schulte Brown, Mayo and Dees, and Mayo and Dees are good players.
Yeah.
Jamie Brandon, Watson, Polworth, Lyons and Brannan, and then Daniels and Dackers up front. And their bench, Bruce Anderson, Beach, Eddie Beach is their subby goalie. Kilty, McGuinness, McKenzie, Stanger, Thompson, Watkins and Williams. So yeah, no sign of Tiffany there. I just think that they're going to be one of them teams down the bottom with ourselves. I think in one of the previous podcasts it says that I think there's going to be a bit of a mini league this season. It's going to be ourselves, Falkirk, Livy, Killy and Motherwell. And the rest of the teams will probably be good enough to make sure that they're not involved in that. And one of them teams will end up getting relegated and the other, obviously another one will finish in the playoffs. I think if we were to come away from there with another draw, that's probably a good result. If you make sure that you're picking up wins against these sort of teams at home and not losing away from home, then there's not too much you can complain about. Just keep the positivity rolling on into the derby the week later. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. It always is at Rugby Park on that pitch. They've still got some players from when they had Derek McInnes and they were in Europe and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I think it's going to be either a narrow Killy win or a draw. What do you reckon?
I think Callum Murray back's going to be a big help for you because Kelly's going to have to set up the team to try and stop him, and then in turn that could open up other opportunities for Dundee to maybe create chances. And we've got Jan Danda, he's going to be able to create the chances. So I think you could have a good result. I think if you're defensively solid, you're defensively robust, I think you can maybe pick up a win. I don't see it. I think a draw is the most likely outcome. But I think if you play like you did against Rangers, I think you've got a decent chance.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're saying there about keep defensively sound and stuff, I mean, I know that the sample size for what I'm about to say is small, but they've looked so much better defensively. I think that's one of the things that Stephen Presley's really wanted to target. Tony Docherty had 2 years at that, and for whatever reason, I'm not saying that him and his backroom staff are bad coaches, but for whatever reason, they just could not address that. No matter who they signed or no matter what they did in training, it just wasn't ever addressed properly. Now, I was always saying that it wasn't just the back 3, 5 or 4, it was the midfield in front weren't protecting the defenders as good as they could have been. I think Mo Silla was a bit of a fan favourite with the Dundee fans. I thought Mo Silla was a good player, but I don't think he done a very good job in helping the defenders. His position wasn't always the best, and we were easy to play through. That's one of the things that I think Digby has done well. Like, he goes unnoticed a lot, but he does the break-up play. He's in the right positions a lot. He wins his headers. He's breaking up play. He's done that role a lot better in the games that I've seen him so far. Now, it could just be a case that these first couple of league games have been a bit of like an anomaly, and we'll go back to what we were last year, because it's really the same defenders. There's no new defenders. It was Astley, Clark Robertson and Graham. And then you had the 2 wing-backs at Ibrox were Dre Wright, who's new, and Samuels, who I think they could sign better. But there's no, and other apart from Dre Wright, there's no new players in that back 5. So it's coaching. It's clearly coaching. Stephen Presley was a good defender, and I think he's targeted that, make us hard to beat and then work on that. And it's right that you say Danda. I think Danda will fit into that midfield 3 somewhere. Whether he starts or not on Saturdays, a different matter. But the creativity is getting there, and I was really impressed with the boy Wesley. He held the ball in well. He can take a turn. he obviously has a bit of an eye for a pass, like we've seen with Finn Robertson running through the Rangers centre half getting sent off. So yeah, there's things to be optimistic about. I just want to kind of try and keep a bit of a lid on it just now, but we'll soon see what happens. Anyway, we'll move on to the next part of our podcast. Now, last week we did touch on this, and it is the ongoing saga of Nou Campy, Dundee's new stadium. Since we recorded, Dundee have put out a statement. I can't remember if, when we recorded, the statement from Transport Scotland had been released or not yet. I don't know if that was maybe what spurred me on to talk about it, or spurred me on to talk about it, certainly. But Transport Scotland have knocked back Dundee's latest plans for the entrance off the Kingsway into the stadium. The exit off the Kingsway, the entrance into the stadium complex. Dundee have since came out. John Nelms released a statement really going to town on the council and on to Transport Scotland. From what I took of what Transport Scotland said, and I'll let you come in this in a minute. Transport Scotland, now this might be wrong, this is just what I took from it. Transport Scotland are saying that they suggested a way that this should work, what they would like to happen. Dundee have went to the consultants who they are speaking to in regards to they're obviously experts in these sort of things for planning applications. And the planning application, the consultancy firm have told them that that's probably not a good idea and this is what they should do. So Dundee have amended the plans, which you could actually find on the council's planning website, by the way. I've not done it myself, but they got put on Twitter. And the Transport Scotland body have came out and rejected that again. Now, Dundee then released a statement. I think that was on Thursday or Friday. Friday, I think it was. John Nelms went to town on them a bit. It's not the first time he's done that. It's the first time he's kind of, well, from what I could remember, the council have been in these crosshairs, but he certainly has released a bit of a strongly worded statement, shall we say, about Transport Scotland a wee while back, which ended up making him look like a bit of a fool, which isn't too difficult. And he's not happy from the statement. I think he's basically saying that the council are playing hardball with them, and then there was a bit of the statement where he said things like the Eden project are getting pushed through and the council are doing everything that they can to facilitate things like that, but when it comes to the stadium, they're not so willing to help out as much. Now, I think most people in Dundee, whether they wear a blue and white scarf or a tangerine and black scarf, will probably agree with that, given that the way that the council operates, the lack of funding that goes into a lot of things, but the funding always seems to be there when it comes to the waterfront in the city centre. Eden Project's just on the edge of the waterfront. And it's all the more frustrating given that the council were the people who suggested that the stadium should go there. It would be more favourable to them if the stadium was to go into that location. And ironically, one of the sites that Dundee had in mind was where the Eden Project's going to be. And I think that is an absolute prime time location for a football stadium. It's right on the edge of the city centre. Away fans can come in on the train, have a drink in the city centre. It keeps, now obviously it wouldn't be great for the pubs in the hill town and the surrounding areas that make so much money from match day, but they would still get United, I suppose. The pubs in the city centre would thrive because you'd have the Old Firm fans and whatever in the city centre, Hearts and Hibs, Aberdeen, and so on. And then they would go back in the city centre and get your trains. Now, one of the main concerns about that site, I think, was the access to it from road. It's going to be exactly the same with the Eden Project, by the way. Exactly the same. Maybe not to the extent of thousands of people coming in and out in such a short space of time on a Saturday afternoon. But that's going to be an ongoing thing, Monday to Sunday, every single week. And that road isn't great already. It's going to be an absolute disaster once that Eden Project comes in. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but they're going to have to do something drastic. But in saying all that, I don't know if you've read the statement, I don't know if you've seen the statement. Is there anything at all that you would like to add?
No, I had a quick skim of the statement, saying that the NEMS had said that the Campy site was one of several that were suggested by the council, and that coincidentally, despite the Eden project being one of the sites and the council saying to them that Campy would be the better place, the Egypt project is the one that's got to finish first and push through first. I've also seen that they've spent about £3.5 million in fees so far, and it seems like a big investment for a club the size of Dundee. I'm guessing Keys or Nelms has put the money forward themselves. Because if that's came out of Dundee's coffers, then that's a massive amount of money for a club like Dundee to be spending on fees. So that is all I've really seen.
This is why. So there's a couple of things I'll pick up on what you've said. The company that owns the land for the stadium and all the other stuff that's going to be built is not Dundee. It's a company set up by Keys and Nelms called Dark Blue Properties Holdings or something like that. Now, yeah, they own Dundee, but the money is never going to come out of Dundee's accounts. It's going to be their money that they put into that company, and they've always been straight with that ever since the whole project was announced. Even when the stadium's built, it's going to be in their name, so they're going to be making the money off it. So we're going to be back to a position where we're not going to own their stadium if they were to then sell the club. Now, because they've put that 3.5 million already in, this is the reason why I think that the stadium is going to go ahead. I can't see them letting that money just go down the plug. I've always been very, well, not always, but for the past maybe year or two, I've always been very certain that it will happen purely because of the money that they've already put into it, the time that they've put into it, the architect's drawings, all the stuff that's already went into this stadium, the money, the time. They'll not let it be just complete waste of time. So I'm confident that that'll happen, but as we said last week, you said it, bureaucracy, etc. This country hates getting stuff done, and when you've got inept things like Transport Scotland having to help you out. I mean, Transport Scotland are a government backed, not a company as such, but they're obviously the government have oversight of them. This is the same government who built our bridge right beside where you live that is only 2 lanes but splits into 3 as soon as you get off it. Why they built a billion whatever pound bridge and there's only 2 lanes aside on it is just absolutely baffling. This is a government in Transport Scotland who, in 2025, in the 21st century, we've still got the Broxton roundabout that backs up any time there's any sort of traffic. We've still got the circle. I say the circle. People from Dundee who are no listening will be laughing at that. The roundabout at Dunblane, which is exactly the same as the Broxton. You've got the Swallow roundabout in Dundee that's an absolute disaster now that never needed to be altered, but they've decided that they wanted to alter it for whatever reason, and now it's an absolute carnage at peak times. The A9 will not even get started on that. And you've got the people in charge of all these projects who can't get it right. The traffic and the road networks, the trunk roads especially, the trunk road network in Scotland is 50 years behind. You drive down to England, and I get that England's got a significantly bigger population, but you drive down to England, and as soon as you get past Preston or whatever, it's about 5 lanes aside. So much easier to drive on. Now, obviously, these get traffic as well because of the significant bigger population, but our trunk road systems are a joke. I'm fucking rambling on now about stuff that have got nothing to do with football, but my point is that you've got these people who are not in charge of it, but they're basically saying whether or not I can go ahead because they need to agree on a slip road. A slip road.
Yeah.
And they're holding up a multi-million-pound project because they're not happy with a slip road, but they can make an arse of all these other things in our country and pat themselves on the back when they build this new Queensferry crossing. The Queensferry crossing should be three lanes aside. I don't understand why it's not. But these same people are holding up the stadium getting done based on a slip road. Now, John Nelms and the people in charge at Dundee's side of things are no angels in this, by the way. From the stuff they are getting drip fed in media and statements that are coming out blaming everybody about themselves. But you can't hold up a project like this for something like that. It has to be Transport Scotland, and the councillors should be forcing Transport Scotland, and the MSPs and whatever should be forcing Transport Scotland and Dundee to get into a room, get that sorted, and get this project on the go. The councillors have kicked the can down the road as well. They're not blameless. The whole thing's a shambles, a complete and utter shambles. Now, whether that it all comes out in years down the road, whose fault it actually was, I don't know. But I think all sides have to take their own part of the blame.
Yeah, as you were saying, I think the stadium probably will get built. I think it seems like the slip road is the only thing that's holding up the project, as far as we can tell so far. And when it comes to the decision making, I think they're going to try and milk it for as much as they're worth, the lawyers and the consultants. They're going to try and make as many pounds as possible from the Elms, from the government, to like I say, to make as much money as possible. And if that means kicking the can down the road, then they'll do that. They're not in a rush to make any of these decisions. So I think it does need to be sorted quickly, because Nelms and Keys are going to be losing a chunk of money if it continues to be delayed. I think time eventually will tell what has went on, but I think Dundee will have a new stadium soon. I could see the new stadium being built within the next couple of years.
Well, say for example, which it probably won't be after the statement from Transport Scotland last week, that was on the planning agenda for September in the council. You're getting the planning permission and whatever, and I don't think once the planning permission is granted, it'll mean that there's spades in the ground and the whole thing's getting. But you'll see John Nelms with a hard hat on and a high-vis vest, standing beside a burnt-out car next to the ice rink. But there's, in my opinion, it's got to be resolved, and it has to be before a planning board by the end of this year. If it's not, then it's a disgrace. It has to be resolved. Dundee shouldn't have to keep spending all this money for the council to just keep kicking the can. It suits the council, by the way, because it's a big decision for these councillors to make. It suits the council that Dundee are squabbling with Transport Scotland and all these other organisations, because then they didn't have to make a decision. What I think will force it in the end is, and I know there's pure power of the vote, there's council elections next year, I think. And if it's not resolved within the next maybe 6 months, and you've got councillors and then canvassing coming to your door and asking for your vote, Dundee fans, and I know that United like to think that they've massively bigger support and all this sort of thing, but there's a lot of Dundee fans in Dundee, funnily enough. And if any of them come to my door, I'll certainly be telling them to get their finger out their arse, or I'll not be voting for them.
First.
But anyway, moving on from that, because I'm sure in the future we'll have plenty more to speak about. Any transfer news, Jack, from United's point of view?
Quite a bit, actually. So, as mentioned last week, I had a wee rumour, and that went through. It was Julius Eskilsson from Haugesund in Norway. He's a Danish midfielder. He signed on a 2-year deal with us. I think he had 6 months left on his deal there, and we've paid off that last 6 months. So he's joined us now. He made his debut against Kelly at the weekend there. I think we've got an optional year on him as well. So if he plays well, then that will be obviously a good thing. Next up, Dario Namo, the right wing back we signed on loan from St. Pölten in Austria. We had the option to buy on him, and we've triggered that. So we've signed him. I think it was for a modest five-figure sum. They were saying for a 21-year-old, I think it's a pretty good piece of business. He looked pretty good in pre-season until he picked up an injury. So I think it could be a really good bit of business for us. He signed a 3-year deal for the club, and that has allowed us to bring in Lucas Stevenson back from Liverpool on loan.
Weird one, Josh. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I've seen a lot of United fans just before Stevenson signed. A lot of United fans were saying we need to sign one of our loan players permanently or get rid of them so that we get Stevenson back on loan because it's only 6 loans max. That must be new. I'm sure that must be new because a couple of years ago Dundee had about 15 players on loan.
So it's 6 players on loan from foreign clubs. So you can only have 6 loans from foreign clubs. I don't know if that it might still be new. I'm not sure, but I know it's 6 loans from foreign clubs as allowed in a season. So we had 6 boys on loan. Namo was one of them, so we've signed him, and that's freed up a space for Stevenson to be brought back on loan. And he's obviously a proven player for us. We know his qualities. He seems very robust. He doesn't seem to be very injury prone. And he's very versatile as well. So I think that's a great piece of business from us. I think Liverpool turned down bids or loan offers from Swansea and Cardiff for him as well. So I think we've pulled off quite a coup with that one.
Yeah, well, Liverpool, obviously a big English club. They'll have umpteen scouts, loan managers, you name it, coaches who'll be keeping up to date with the progress. And if they're saying one of their boys is going and playing in a system that they like, and he's developing, he's playing every week, he's playing in a good team, whatnot, then they'll want to send him back. It was the same, slightly different scenario with Owen Beck. We had him. The reason why we got him, I think, was because Tony Docherty knew someone at Liverpool. He had a couple of poor loan spells the year before. One was in Portugal and one was at Bolton, I think, that hadn't really worked for him. He came up here and he was outstanding for the first half of the season. He gets recalled. There's loads of rumours that Celtic are then wanting him. And he comes on for 20 minutes for Liverpool. I think it was at Bournemouth. And because he'd played for Liverpool and he'd already played for Dundee, that then allowed us to then get him back, which didn't last long before he got injured. But I think if Liverpool and all these big clubs are seeing boys going to a team like United, Dundee, etc., smaller clubs in Liverpool, they're seeing them do well and they're seeing them develop, they'll be more than happy for them to go back. Because who's to say he goes to Swansea or Cardiff and plays? Like, he might not. I'm not saying
that's true.
I'm not saying that Swansea and Cardiff are better than United. I'd imagine that maybe Swansea are, given that they're in the Championship, but who's to say that he goes there and plays? The Championship especially is different. I don't know if you've ever seen a Championship game live, but it is like Land of the Giants. So it's probably the best thing for him. It's the best thing for Liverpool because he's going out and playing, and he'll feature regularly for United. Anything else other than that?
No. I think we had one boy out on loan and that was it.
Any rumours at all?
No, nothing. You?
Well, there's no rumours, nothing's kind of all gone quiet since they signed Wesley and Danda, other than the Cammy McPherson is on trial with them, and then they've got the 2 Mexican boys over. Well, one of them's been across already, and then the other boy from Monterrey. As I said last week, I'd imagine that the boy Urias would probably be one that they'd probably sign. I doubt that they're getting him across for a second time in the space of a month or 6 weeks if they're not going to sign him. It's all, as I said last week, it seems a bit, in the most part, it just seems a bit unfair to ask the guy to come over from Mexico twice in 6 to 8 weeks and not sign him twice. But he's certainly a player that we could do with having. I think he's very similar to Danda, but it's always good to have options, especially when you've probably not going to be paying his wages. I'd imagine that he'll just be over here in Monterrey, will be paying him whilst he's here. I can't imagine with the agreement that we've got with them that they'll be taking much in the way of loan fees from us. So if we can get him across as a squad filler, that would be great, and see what he's like. I've not seen him. He played at Brecon in pre-season, but other than that, I've not seen him play. Well, I didn't see him play at Brecon either. He scored, actually. I've seen that. I've seen it on the highlights, but I've not seen him in the flesh for 90 minutes or for a significant period of time. Anyway, moving on to the last section of the show, which is, as usual, the Footballogy Challenge. Now, this week there's not really too much to report. Jack and Martin both had forfeits, obviously, as usual. I'll put the results from this week and the league table up on screen, so if you're listening on YouTube, you'll be able to see that. The results this week I had was a game from the 18th of August 2007. Now, I touched on it earlier. Jack says to me earlier on text, how on earth do you remember that? When it comes to football, I tend to remember quite a lot. It's one of the only things that my mind can really retain. Martin and Jack both had forfeit weeks. They didn't have a game, so 1-0 defeats for both of them. We'll touch on the St Johnstone game. It was a first division game at the time. I remember it because Freddie Daquin scored for Dundee. Now, that name will probably bring shivers down the spines of a lot of Dundee fans. I'll go through the starting 11. So there was a 6,079 crowd. Owen Coyle was the St Johnstone manager. Alec Ray was the Dundee manager. The starting 11 for Saints that day was Alan Main, Stephen Anderson, Kevin Rukjevic, Alan McManus, Andrew Laurie, Derek McInnes, Martin Hardy, John Stewart, Paul Sheeran, David Weatherston and Peter MacDonald. The substitutes for St Johnstone that day were Kevin Cuthbert, Dairon Dahl, Jamie McCluskey and Andy Jackson. The starting 11 for Dundee was Ludovic Roy, David Worrell, Gary McKenzie, Milan Palaniuk, Paul Dixon, Freddie Daquin, Scott Robertson, Kevin MacDonald, Gavin Swankie, Jan Zemelik and Bob Davidson. On the bench, Craig Sampson, Danny Griffin, Paul McHale, David O'Brien and Yanni Sturm. The scorers for the team's 47th minute was a goal from John Stewart, and with Freddie Daquin equalising in the 76th. There was 2 red cards, one for each team. 61st minute Martin Hardy and then the 90th minute Jan Zemelik. I did have a wee quick read through the matters report and it looks like both of them were for elbows. Martin Hardy was partial to a few of them, so I could imagine that that'll be definitely what his was for. One of the things I do remember about that though was when we used to play St Johnstone back in the day in the First Division. So I started going in 2001 to the football. St Johnstone were in the Premier League that year, but they got relegated at the end of the season. It wasn't until Dundee then ended up getting relegated a few years later that I started seeing Dundee play against St Johnstone. Didn't realise what the fixture was. They don't like us very much, is what I'm trying to say. When we used to play St Johnstone, now given both teams were usually up at the top end of the league, I think it was for about 4 or 5 seasons we played each other in that First Division. The crowds were always massive, especially at McDermott. They would sell out that stand along the side of the pitch. We'd take a big travelling support. And then when we used to play them in the Premier League, it was completely different. It was like they wouldn't nearly sell out, we wouldn't nearly sell out. It was strange. Like they felt like big games. Like this one, in the match report, which I found on the archive, if I just quickly find it, it says here, Dundee's biggest travelling support for a league match since relegation were in fine voice as the game got underway. So, I mean, that goes to show you how big a support it was. They sold out the stand behind the goal and then the third of the main stand that you usually get. And I remember games at McDermott where we sold out that and it was pay at the gate at the time and they had to stop the match because there was too many Dundee fans in the away end, and they had to stop the match to allow fans to walk around the side of the pitch to go into the other stand behind the goal. It ended up maybe about a third of that full from just fans that were late to the match and were paying to get in. So these sort of things, like, I can't get my head around how when you end up in the Premier League, I suppose St Johnstone or mid-table, Dundee or mid-table, whatever, like the games won't have as much on them, but if they're saying that that's their derby match, the Dundee teams, they seem to have a bit more of a hatred for Dundee than they do for United for some reason. But you would think that they would come out for it, given that it's their derby. But
yeah,
they've always been a strange bunch, haven't they?
They probably hate Dundee more because you've always been there or thereabouts with them in the league. Like you're always roughly in the same leagues at the same time, whereas United were probably consistently in the top flight for quite a number of years, and Dundee have been in the league, the Championship, along with St Johnstone for a fair chunk of that. So that's probably why you don't like each other. Well, probably why St Johnstone don't like Dundee as much as United. Or the
I
other
mean,
way around.
we won the Premier League title there, and in the process, when we won that game, we relegated them. But I mean, it can't all stem from that. Like,
No, I don't think so.
I get that geographically, Perth. If you're in Perth, your closest matches are the Dundee sides. So that would then bring out the fact that they've not got like a local rival. That we are their most local teams. So that would maybe be something behind it as well. But it's always been a strange one for me. I mean, I laugh at them. They've got stickers and all sorts, and they had banners and all, and it's like 50 or whatever years and you've won fuck all. And you just look at them and you think, we'll just come back when you've won a league title. We've won a league title and it was at your gaff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wasn't alive to see it, but, I mean, history didn't start when I was born. So, yeah. Anyway, that is the end of episode 8. Now, obviously United don't have a game at the weekend. Dundee are away to Kilmarnock, as we spoke about. Next week, we will be building up to the Dundee derby, the first derby of the season, which will be at Dens. So we're going to do a bit of a special episode. Martin is going to come back and join Jack on the United side of things. And I'm currently still looking for a Dundee co-host to join me. I have somebody who I'm hoping that will join me, but if not, we'll have to look at alternatives. But we'll definitely have 2 people on each side and we'll have a good proper debate. Looking forward to the derby. Jack, I'm going to lay you a challenge,
Okay.
which I'm also going to put to them as well, and I'll do it myself. I want you to put together your best United 11. You could decide the formation, all the stuff you could decide. The only thing is that you have to have seen them play for United.
Okay.
So you can't have boys like Davy Neri and Paul Sturrock.
Yep.
You have to have seen them playing for United. So I've already done this. I was speaking to somebody in the pub the other week and we done it, like he done his and I done mine. So I'll have mine ready.
Okay, I've got a question.
Go for it.
Is it based on their whole career or just at the time of United?
So I done mine based on their time at Dundee. So the best players I've seen playing for Dundee,
Okay.
like what their form was like. So I don't know if you've got like, give us an example of somebody who was maybe a brilliant player and then ended up at United when they were a bit washed.
Well, you could go like Guy Demel, Kawashima,
Boys
all
like
them
that.
players.
They were dog shit when they were at United.
Yeah.
They got relegated when they were at United. So I wouldn't be putting them in if I were you.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
I would base it on players who were outstanding for United and then moved on or whatever. But the players that I've got on my team were very, very good whilst they were at Dundee. Now, since I've already made mine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a 7-man bench as well.
Okay.
So that I've still got something to think about. You don't have to do the bench if you don't want to, but because I've already done it, I'll make a bench. I'll put this to Martin and I'll put it to the Dundee supporter that comes on. I think after that, then the episode after next week will be the next instalment of our monthly top 5. So we'll have to decide what subject we're going to do on that. With worst games this month. So we'll have to have a think about what we're going to do next month. So yeah, looking forward to that. And we'll be looking forward to welcoming Martin back. And as I say, I'll get some support on as well. So it's not a 2 against 1. And we'll have a good proper argument about the oncoming derby match.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Anyway, thank you very much for everyone for listening to episode 8 of the Sandeman Street podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, give us a subscribe, like the video, tell your mates, spread the word. If you could follow our socials, You know where to find them, on Twitter and on Instagram. On Twitter, we are at SandemanSTPod, at SandemanSTPod, and on Instagram, we are the Sandeman Street Pod. So you can find us on them, give us a follow, get the word out to your mates if they're wanting to listen to two boys speaking shite about Dundee United for an hour and a bit. And we'll look forward to welcoming you back next week for our first Derby special of the season. Take care.